Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse right here on Fantasy Football Plus and the Undroppables Network. We got a full slate tonight. We got Grindberg in the building. Schultzy's here. Our pal Jeremiah Retzlaff is here. Not to be confused with the quarterback from BYU. And of course, I am Biggs. We got a lot to talk about. Rachaad White and his stellar performance last week, while Bucky Irving was sidelined, and Rachaad White absolutely proved his value.
Hey, you might have won the battle, but you have not won the war yet. Hat tip to Bucky Irving. He did very well. Hat tip to him.
Hey, do I got some Bucky Irving back up here? I was going to say, if this is even a remote amount of Bucky Irving shade, I need to step in.
We've got a convert here because Schultzy, I took your spot last week and I was right, like hands deep in a Bucky Irving battle with my homeboy coach over here, and we were up against him and Chev, and it took half of the show to get through, and
40 minutes.
Yeah, we're still talking about it, and I'm not sure if we need to revisit the hash on that, but maybe that's something that we have a whole show about at the end of the year when we kind of talk about, like, how it played out, and maybe the situation once we figure out where Rachaad White is going to be next year and how that goes.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of long-form conversation, good discussion. For the folks watching, it's very much worth going back. There's a lot of evergreen elements, and we talked about just market principles, timelines. In Dynasty, we talk about different parts of the calendar, and it was very relevant. Even though Biggs is bullish on Rachaad White, he's waiting. He sees another dip in the market. So that's very sharp and savvy and very much worth it. So the nuance to that, you can be bullish on a player, but understand that there's going to be different market and entry points, of course, in Dynasty. And part of that is being tuned in to the Dynasty Pulse.
Absolutely. I just thought it was kind of cool that we got into this huge discussion, and then Rachaad White had himself an absolutely stellar game.
Oh, I thought of you instead.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to get to. I think Mike's going to probe me.
Yeah.
Woo, my favorite part.
Do you want to probe Schultzy and Jeremiah too?
I'm going to probe the gang here, and
yes.
Let's start it off. You know what? I'm done talking about injuries, so I'm just going to talk about two stories here, and we're going to get into Josh Allen dominating 2024 again, and when will his reign end? His legacy continues to grow as one of the most consistent and dynamic quarterbacks in recent history in 2024. He is showing no signs of slowing down, delivering the most historic performance I've seen from a fantasy quarterback ever. Week 14 brought 342 yards passing, 3 touchdowns in the air, and 82 on the ground, plus another 3 touchdowns. His dual threat ability makes him just the asset that is unparalleled to anybody right now in fantasy football. What can we do with Josh Allen moving forward? My first question to you is to Jeremiah, okay? Josh Allen's heavy usage, his dual threat nature. Do you see his reign as a top fantasy quarterback lasting into his early 30s, or do you think his peak age from Dynasty is now? What are your thoughts?
I think the peak is still going to continue. It used to be a mobile quarterback would reach 30, lose some of their rushing edge, and then just fall off. Josh Allen is built different. The rushing quarterback in the NFL has changed now and is built different. If you can't chuck the rock, you will lose your job. Just ask Justin Fields. And then let's talk about how many opportunities that Trey Lance got in the NFL. Not very many. All right, the door shut quickly. We haven't seen many QBs who rush like Josh Allen thrive into their 30s. Now, you had Russell Wilson. He tapered off his rushing as he got into his 30s. I contend that Josh Allen's arm is what will keep him in the NFL, and that his rushing will continue well into his 30s. Currently at 28.5, as you mentioned, Mike, getting, approaching that age 30, 6'5", 237-pound frame. We know that the NFL is a sport that has 100% injury rate in their career. As long as we don't see any significant lower body injuries to Josh Allen, I see him aging gracefully as a mobile NFL quarterback. This year, Josh Allen, 4th in carries with 80, 8th in carries per game, 6.2, 3rd in red zone carries with 26, 5th in rushing yards with 416, and he also has 9 rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen is 12th in pass attempts with 393, so it's not all the rush. 6th in passing touchdowns with 23. Josh Allen is the number 1 QB in QBR. He's 10th in true passer rating. As Josh Allen ages, his arm is what will buy him more time to run. Give me another 4 years of this type of Josh Allen as he clears as a top 5 dynasty quarterback for me. Now, this is a good topical discussion. We look around. Lamar is 27. Jalen Hurts is 26. So these questions will start coming by, but leading the pack right now is Josh Allen. In startups, take advantage of anyone being fearful of Josh Allen falling off as he nears age 30, right? I've heard Biggs talk about, and I like this from him, it is okay to win your league the first year in a startup, and it is okay to draft older players. Essentially, it means that you should be playing for shorter term windows and giving less worry to holding the bag when it comes to an elite pass attack or elite asset such as Josh Allen, both running and passing. I would rather, speaking of what you talked about, Mike, have Josh Allen on my team for his 6 total touchdown performance last week, experience the 50 burger in fantasy, and then deal with the drop-off later than to miss out. I mean, right now, it sounds good in theory. Hey, any player can get 3 first-round picks. You take the 3 first-round picks and you re-roll, right? Good luck giving 3 first-round picks for Josh Allen right now. After this 50 burger that he had against the Rams, why would you sell him? You let him, just drop years from now on your team, and you squeeze out all the toothpaste from the tube. And I love Josh Allen in the near term for the next 2 years to 30, but beyond that, through to 32, 33, then we can start talking. But I think he's got a great wave to continue this run as a top-tier, top 5 quarterback in Dynasty.
For sure. Biggs, what about you? What are your thoughts on him? As far as his rushing upside, do you think that longevity is gonna, stay prevalent?
Like Jeremiah said, we have seen historically that guys like Cam Newton, that were primarily rushing quarterbacks, tended to fall off after about the first 5 or 6 years of their career. Josh Allen doesn't look like he's going to be doing that. I'm struggling to find it, but in one of my dynasty leagues, I went full bore and traded I only gave up 2 first-round picks and a couple other picks, but I did go out and get Josh Allen for my playoff run. Yeah. Trouble was that we started the playoffs really early, and I got snuck up on in the first round and lost. And then the next week got to watch Josh Allen in that league put up 60 points. My team led all scorers in the league that week, and but I did it from the losers bracket. So I am fully bought in on Josh Allen. 4 years is a great window for him. Mm-hmm. He's going to be dealing with injuries at some point. It just to his lower body. He's already had some shoulder issues, maybe an elbow, some upper body stuff, but that frame is, I kind of liken it to when you're looking at pitchers. You got Tim Lincecum versus Matt Cain. You can kind of project that Matt Cain, with his body type, is going to have a longer career than Tim Lincecum. That played out. That's kind of similar to Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen's going to be doing it a little bit longer than Lamar Jackson will, just because of the frame that he's carrying.
I made a trade this offseason for Josh Allen in a dynasty league that brought up some skepticism because of, his situation, losing Stephon Diggs. I traded away the 104 at the time, which ended up being Jaden Daniels and Kyron Williams for Josh Allen.
I would do that 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Yep. And now that's positioned me into a run now where last week I had Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, and a late inactive Lad McConkey out of my lineup, and I still scored over 240 points because of Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. So, I mean, Josh Allen is when he has these weeks, there's nothing that you could do to put up with him. You know what I mean? Like it's insane. So yeah, that 4-year window, and he's only going to get smarter, and he's only going to get better with his passing downfield. So like this could be something that goes well into his 30s. You know what I mean? Because he's not just relying on his legs, and he's got that big body, which, in the red zone is going to be, still going to be effective even well into his 30s. He's just going to not have those 80-yard rushing games, probably. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And the injury bug.
I found the trade. I gave Taysom Hill 25 first and second, 26 second, and 27 first and second, and I got back Josh Allen and Khalil Mack. It's an IDP league.
Beautiful.
And at this point, the team that I traded with, I am battling for 5th place. I finished 3rd, he finished 7th, and now we're both in the losers bracket. And he's got all my picks.
Mike, to go to your trade, you got ripped, right, for that, or it caused a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
It makes me think, though, I recall in The Simpsons, Homer Simpson saying something about they were going to go to Canada, and Homer Simpson said, why go to America Junior when you're already in America? And for you, conceptually, Mike, what you were doing, had you traded, kept Jaden Daniels, you would have just stayed in America Junior. All right.
Yeah.
So why not just have the grade A player in Josh Allen? You went and got him. And the toying and the risking, granted, player profiler, quarterback rankings, Dynasty, Josh Allen 1, Lamar 2, Jaden Daniels 3. For the risk, the offset for what you just gave up in, Kyron Williams, Kyron Williams is not an efficient running back. Running backs, they've had a resurgence, but you see Rashad White, Bucky Irving, you can salvage backfields, multiple players. Going and get Josh Allen, he hung a 50 burger. We haven't seen Jaden Daniels do that. You made the right trade, and you stayed in America, man. You didn't go to America Junior.
Yeah, well, I got ripped on another trade in a league that is turning out to be – I want to hear your opinion on this, okay? Because this was – like I got ripped. And now my team is like the number 1 point team. I traded because this was an orphan that I picked up, complete orphan shit team. I traded away Tua, Michael Pittman Jr., my 2025 first and second for Jamar Chase.
Is it
I can do that.
league?
What's that?
Is it single quarterback?
No, it's a super flex league, but my quarterbacks were Jared Goff, Bo Nix, and then I also have Trevor Lawrence as well. So
The bottom line is every time you make a trade, you want to be the winner of the best player in the deal. And when you look at if you go on Sleeper and you go to your league history in your dynasty leagues, you can look at the scoring history, and it'll give you a list of the top 10 weekly performances for a week. Yeah. 4 of those top spots are held by Jamar Chase, or three of the top 4 spots are held by Jamar Chase and Josh Allen. So if you are sitting on those guys and they're getting you those historic 50-point games, you're going to be in pretty good shape, especially if you start to struggle because the rest of your lineup is kind of hampered. And then you can unload those guys for huge caches of draft picks. So those are the ultimate assets to own, those 2 guys in fantasy, Josh Allen and Jamar Chase.
Yeah. And so I mean, I got ripped over the coals, and now I'm the one ripping them over the coals. So I'm just, it's one of those things where, sometimes you just got to make it, trust your instinct, and then go for it, right? Because you never know what's going to end up happening. So let's move on, guys, because there's a situation here that needs to be talked about, and it's creating a lot of controversy, and that is the Michael Penix versus Kirk Cousins. When will we see Penix? Will it be this year? Kirk Cousins' grip on that starting quarterback job in Atlanta is loosening. He did sign that 4-year, $180 million contract this offseason, but he's struggled. 8 interceptions in his last 4 games. Michael Penix, he's got that, long-term college career. He's already 24. He's got that experience. Obviously, the Falcons thought that they needed some insurance there, taking him 12th overall. Now, Schultzy, how do you value Michael Penix in Superflex leagues, given his high risk, high reward profile and the uncertainty on when he will take over?
Oh, dude, this is a really tough one. When he got drafted, I was like big time out for fantasy. With Kirk's contract, they don't have an out until after the second year. So like my initial thought was like, you're investing 2 years in this dude who's already older. It's going to be 2 years before he even gets a shot. And then it's very possible he's still bad. And then you're just losing all this time, right? I've changed my tune some here because, Kirk has just been abysmal lately. And if I'm coaching the team, I'm making the switch. I don't care about the contract. Like, they're fighting for the playoffs, and Kirk has just been straight up bad. Like, this team needs a spark. And who better to provide it than the rookie quarterback you just stuck your balls out and drafted, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know if there's a market value here because it all is like who's holding them and what do they think, right? Because I don't think there's a consensus. If you're willing to take a shot and you think that he's going to enter later this year or he's going to take over this offseason, I'll pay for a QB2 price, no problem, in Superflex.
Yeah, there are a couple things at work here. Number one is Kirk Cousins' contract. Like Schultzy said, they don't have an out. They take a huge cap hit if they cut him before year 2 is over. I feel blessed by the Falcons because I have always been of the opinion that rookie quarterbacks should mature for a little bit. Now, when you talk about age, age is a better conversation for draft profiles. It's not necessarily relevant once they get to their opportunity. So you can have a guy who profiles as an older running back so you kind of stay away from him in rookie drafts. But then once Tyrone Tracy gets an opportunity, the age goes out the window. The kid can ball. Michael Penix is in that corner.
Bo Nix is 24 too. So
what's that?
I said Bo Nix is 24 too.
Right.
Like,
Now
about
that was the next thing I was going to get to. Yeah. Bo Nix and Michael Penix, I had round 2 grades on last year coming into the draft. They both got taken in the top 12. Penix went number 8. Bo Nix went number 12. So now you have draft capital working for it. The Atlanta Falcons have invested serious draft capital in Michael Penix. So at some point, he's going to get his opportunity. Whether or not they think they can still compete this year, they're quickly falling out of that top spot in the NFC South. I'm praying to my lords that it doesn't happen until week 16 because I want the Raiders to play against Kirk Cousins. And I'm going to bet a whole lot of money on lots of different player props, like Trevon Merrick, two touchdowns, or 2 interceptions.
2 touchdowns would be a good one.
But on the other hand, I do want to see Michael Penix A as early as possible, and B, I want to keep the tank rolling. So let's go ahead and start him this week against the Raiders.
But does he not give them the best opportunity to win right now? Like without knowing like what you know out of him, like
I want to say you kind of have to trust a coaching staff to know better, but I'm also a Raiders fan, and obviously we know better than the coaching staff, so I can't really say that with much confidence.
Well, this is a rookie head coach that is trying to play for his job, his division title, because they've got the 2 games on the Bucs. Right, they are a game back on them.
Actually, they're in second place in the division.
Yeah, I know they are, but they have the 2 games on the Bucs, so they beat them twice. So that's the thing. So if they get even with them, they have the tiebreaker. So that's where I'm saying is like they're really tight with them. So they're looking at this as, does Kirk Cousins give us the best opportunity to win right now? I don't know. In the long term, I think he gives them, Penix gives them the best opportunity now and in the future. With that experience, look what they've done with Bo Nix. Yes, the pressure is on, but give the guy a shot. He's got the best surrounding weapons you're going to want to have as a rookie. It's better than the Bears had. It's better than the Commanders. Look at what Penix has got around him. I just think that this could be a situation where, that if the Falcons really want to make a run, maybe Penix is their guy. He's a bit more versatile, mobile. Like Kirk Cousins can't do a bootleg right now because he's so immobile. And you give that versatility to them, maybe they get Kyle Pitts involved. I just think personally, Penix gives them the best opportunity to win. And obviously, I think it's the coaching decision as far as they need to make a point right now. He's trying to get himself there, but as a franchise, I don't know if that's the right decision.
It kind of comes down to what kind of mistakes you want to have play out in the game.
Yeah.
Do you want Kirk Cousins making physical mistakes, or do you want Michael Penix making rookie mistakes? So you that coaching staff has to kind of hedge their bets.
Falcons the
Kirk
last
Cousins
2
is
weeks.
already,
I've seen plenty of mental mistakes.
Yeah.
The way I would look at it is this: with Kirk Cousins, you can set the cruise control at 60 miles an hour, but you can't go past 60 miles an hour, or the wheels are going to fall off. With Penix, you might be able to go 90, but you might go off the highway.
That's good. That's real good.
So I think that they're fine. They believe that they have enough in other spots with the way that they're not really playing defense and not really scoring points to just go 60. And the Bucs have closed that gap, and I don't think that they can continue to feel like they can go 60 and get to where they want to go. That's my personal opinion. I think that if they lose this game this week, we see Penix in week 60.
It's baffling to me. Like, yes, because I think that if they're out of the race, then they give Penix an opportunity to get in there because
they've invested. To the
Raiders. I mean, yeah. But wouldn't it
be like losing to the Jags?
But wouldn't this be the game to get him in there? You know what I mean? Knowing that you have that opportunity to win this game with him in the lineup, and if that's the decision you make, let's let it roll with this first round guy, 12th overall.
The Raiders' defense is sneaky against the pass, and if Atlanta doesn't have any touchdowns in the first half, I think Penix comes in the second half.
That's fair. Yeah.
They're about to go Bijan 35 times.
They could easily lose this game to the Raiders, and that's the end of it regardless. Like this game is close. Like, honestly, especially if O'Connell plays, I think this game is a lot closer.
Hey, so we've all got big Penix energy right now. Let's tap into the Dynasty Pulse here. Trade market, right? Let's say we're actionable. We're talking about what may or may not happen on the field reality, but in our dynasty leagues, here's a trade for you. Keep trade cut, spits out. It's super flex settings. Ready? Chuba Hubbard or Michael Penix.
Michael Penix.
What side?
Michael Penix.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, like he was my like fourth quarterback in this class for me.
I was taking Michael Penix at the 2 turn there quite a bit because of the upside as a quarterback and how much they weigh in Superflex. And I can hold on a quarterback a year or two and let him blossom. And Penix has got the opportunity down the line. He's got the weapons. Like I just think that's a really good situation.
It depends on where I sit in the standings. If I'm a competitor, I'm absolutely taking Hubbard.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to build, I'm taking Penix. I like Penix, and quarterbacks hold their value, and we've got a good 6 to 10 year window with Penix. We have a 2 or 3 year window with Hubbard at most, and
I mean, his value could continue to go up, sure, but there's no world where 2 years from now, if Penix is a starter, you would be able to get that deal done. The
Right.
minute that Penix becomes a starter, you can no longer get that deal done.
So as Penix is erecting, we got to hold on to him, right?
As he is going 6 to midnight, stock straight up.
All I know is that if I'm moving off of Penix, I'm making sure I get a 2026 high draft pick, because that's going to be the quarterback class to target. This next quarterback class is pretty mid.
All right,
Yes.
Chev. Chev, I got a question for you then. As far as like the other side, then Kirk Cousins, if you're holding him in a dynasty league, what adjustments are you making to your team long-term strategy, knowing that his job is like definitely in jeopardy with Penix kind of getting on his heels now?
One thing that I did in the leagues that I do have Kirk Cousins is I made plans during the 2023 season to try to get extra draft capital so that I could get one of the quarterbacks in the 2024 class. I was pretty keyed up about that. So in one league, I was able to, I traded Brock Purdy for a second before the 2023 season started. And I hate that so much, but there was a first involved with that too, in another deal that I made later, because I do feel bad about it. So I ended up getting the 102 and the 101 took Marvin Harrison. So I got Caleb Williams. And in another league, I still have Kirk Cousins, and I was getting offered seconds constantly, and I wouldn't take it. And I wish I would have. If you can move off Kirk for a second, like that might be as much. There's zero chance that you're getting a first for him. I mean, unless you traded him after the Bucs game, either one of the Bucs games, the bottom could fall out very quickly. I would be well suited to move off of him for almost any second at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. I think you'd be hard to get a second at this stage right now for him.
100%. You can't do it right now.
Yeah.
You cannot do it right now. Nobody's trading for Kirk Cousins during a playoff run, and nobody's going to want to in the offseason because they're going to be like,
I don't think you couldn't get Cole's reward points for him right now.
No, I mean, like you could go off of someone like Kirk Cousins for a third and just let that offer sit in the inbox for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, agreed. All right. Let's move on, guys, because last week we didn't get into our stock up, stock down because Bucky Irving and Rachaad White took too much of our time. So, Chev, we talked about dedicating a whole episode in the offseason to the Rachaad White Bucky Irving battle. Once we figure out, how the offseason plays out a little bit, and maybe we see if Rachaad White sticks with him, and if he doesn't, then we're gonna have something to talk about. For sure.
I'll start. Okay, I'm going to go stock up Rachaad. No, I'm kidding.
Let's go.
Schultzy.
Let's do it. You were out of town last week.
Indeed, I was back in Indiana. And for stock up, I'm sticking in Indiana with Anthony Richardson. All right.
Go.
Thank you. What a ride it has been for Anthony Richardson. We had some friends calling him to be the QB1 of the season. Am I right?
Yeah.
I wonder who that was. It was Mike. Spoiler alert. I'm just teasing him. It was a well-deserved call. I mean, like Anthony.
The upside
Richardson
is there. Period.
Right. Exactly. So
I listened to you guys on a 10. So you know what? We can throw all the shade you want on me. Schultzy.
We could go all day. Exactly. That's right.
Let's go.
But Anthony Richardson, the things we all loved about him coming into the offseason is still there. The rushing and everything, like the passing was just abysmal. He got that little benching. And I don't think his stock was. I don't think his stock's ever going to get as low as it was at that point. People are very reactionary in fantasy football and in the NFL, and it was pretty doom and gloom for him there for a hot minute. And I hope people took advantage and traded for him because the stock's coming back up now. You're looking at the last 3 games here. He has top 20 points, fantasy points in 2 of the 3 games, including 23 and 28, 23 against the Patriots, 28 against the Jets. His one kind of stinker of a game, 12.98 points against the Lions. I mean, the Lions beat the crap out of people. He was 11 for 28 through the air, but still ran for 61 yards on 10 attempts. So, I mean, like I said, things we like about him, it's all there still. And these are the three starts coming back from getting benched. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns in that span. It's all coming back. It looks like the time on the bench was good for him. Now he's on bye this week, they just came off of bye. Everybody's back this week. He gets the Broncos. And then he gets the Titans. So he's got a kind of 2 solid pass defenses here coming up, but we can run. I think that the stock's going to keep shooting up in the offseason because we're going to do the same cycle of look at the tools, look at the size of this guy. Like, we're going to find those couple clips on Twitter that we're going to fall in love with. And I'm probably going to be guilty of it too. This dude is freaking electric, man. Like, built in a lab to dominate football, like Anthony Richardson, right? Go ahead.
I do agree that his stock is going to continue to go up. Him playing well over these last 3 weeks and actually helping teams win in their fantasy matchups is going to have a lot to do with that. I'm pretty keyed up. For what he's going to be able to do on the ground. I had him before the season started. I was looking at my notepad. I had him rushing for 14 rushing touchdowns this year. Obviously, it's been better since he came back, but they weren't using for the first half of the season. Well, before he got benched, they weren't using him like that. And it's like,
yeah. And the weirdest thing is
left-handed. Like,
is off season, Steichen was like, we're going to hammer him. Like, we're not going to worry about it. Like, this is what he's good at. We're just going to pound him. And then you're right. They didn't do it at all. And then it's been 10 carries, 9 carries since he came back.
Yeah, I had him for 168 carries on season, so about 10 carries a game. I think that is where our money is going to be made. The passing game clearly is going to be hit or miss, mostly because he leads the league his receivers lead the league in drop rate, and sometimes he just, I don't know, it's a missile with no. with zero homing beacon on it, or targeting system. Like they just, he's erratic as a passer. I believe it'll get better. You're seeing it get better. It's been better, and his receivers have not done him any favors whatsoever. I think getting Josh Downs back this week will help. And if Riley Moss, White Lightning, is not playing for the Broncos this week, that'll help even more. Because if Levi Wallace I should play Anthony Richardson with a lot of confidence if Riley Moss isn't practice. He didn't practice today, so he's probably not going to play. And they're going to roll Levi Wallace out again, and that's going to be great for the passing attack. You saw James go for 500. Nobody else is their defense without Riley Moss is a totally different unit, and I think that Anthony Richardson could be a sneaky play this week, in spite of the fact that the Broncos have been a really, really strong unit as a whole. And the rushing floor alone puts him above guys like, I'd play him above Justin. No, I wouldn't. I was about to say it, and I'm not going to say it.
No, don't do it. Don't play him above Justin Herbert. Come on now, man. Come on, man.
I almost did it, but he would be just behind Justin Herbert for me.
All right.
Yeah, I think the next couple weeks are very important, but like you mentioned, carries, they're coming back. I think they're wising up on how the usage for him, and that's huge.
Well, we were discussing Josh Allen earlier, and one of my favorite Twitter follows is the guy who keeps tweeting where Anthony Richardson is compared to Josh Allen, and there's so many games started in the NFL. And Anthony Richardson has absolutely kept pace with Josh Allen's start. And over the last couple of weeks, Richardson has now passed Josh Allen, and his numbers are, through however many games he's played in the NFL, are better now than Josh Allen's were when he was at the same point in his career. So yeah, love some AR. He was my quarterback for the season, but he missed some time due to injury. But now he's got Josh Downs back, and I'm looking for some Alec Pierce hookups. Love me some AR.
All right, Jeremiah, let's start with let's get into your stock up then.
Hey, let's stock up on Chuba Hubbard, full Chuba. Mentioned him a little bit earlier in that trade, hypothetically. On Dynasty Daddy, using the trade demand tool, Chuba Hubbard had his highest volume of liquidity in the trade market for trades. It was just between 14 and 21 days ago. That timed perfectly with the return of Jonathan Brooks. Some Dynasty managers lived on Fear Street and sold Chuba at a slightly distressed price. Buyers saw a valuable opportunity, knowing Chuba had locked up his 4-year contract. Of course, if you held on to Chuba, just sometimes inaction is the best action. They're very happy. Fast forward to week 14, Jonathan Brooks sadly tears his ACL. Chuba Hubbard is the RB12 to David Montgomery's RB9. Player Profiler's Dynasty ranks currently has Montgomery at RB18. Chuba Hubbard is at 25. I'd like all of your guys' opinions on Chuba and Demont, or Chuba or Demont. But first, let me drop some Chuba Hubbard stats. Hubbard, this season, 7 top 12 games in 13 games played this season. Consider where you got him in startups. Mike, I got him in a startup with our league. I'm very happy with that. Getting him late in best ball, he's been an excellent advance rate player. Hubbard is 8th in expected fantasy points per game, 6th in rushing yards, 7th in carries, 9th in targets, 45, 6th in red zone touches. That's what counts, scoring, touchdowns. 15th in receptions with 35, and his 9 total touchdowns, ranked 10th. Chuba Hubbard, no slouch in the efficiency game. He's 4th in breakaway runs. Now, Chuba is 25.5, minimal usage in his first 2 seasons. He now has back-to-back years over 200 rushing attempts. Chuba has cleared 1,000 rushing yards in only 13 games played so far. Chuba is just David Montgomery located in Charlotte on a team that now has less competition. The 25 to 30 window has opened up back for running backs in this league in a big way. 2025 will be a continuance of this due to the nature of contracts being doled out to running backs post-age apex, which the age apex for running backs is now becoming obsolete. So I just want to hang there with you guys. Demont or Chuba Hubbard in Dynasty?
Full Chuba.
I'm going
Shepard.
David Montgomery.
I'm going David Montgomery.
But it seems like we had to think about it, right?
Yeah, I'm going David Montgomery simply for the fact that he's on a winning team and he gets goal line touches, and that creates opportunities for scoring.
Now, let me rapid fire to you, Mike. Terry McLaurin or Chuba Hubbard?
Oh, I'm a huge Terry McLaurin guy. Even in Dynasty, I think that I can get a good turnover off of him regardless in a year or two from now still.
All right, Chev, Isaiah Pacheco or Chuba Hubbard? We won't inflect any bias for Kansas City Chiefs by asking Mike that question, so I'll ask you, Chev. Pacheco or Chuba?
I'd be on Chuba's side with that.
All right, Schultzy, a late 26 first or Chuba Hubbard?
Oh man, honestly, probably give me the Chuba. I hate dealing with really late picks that are far out like that.
If it's a 25 first, I'm going for it because that's a killer RB class.
I think 26 pushing me 2 years out. That's where I lose it.
All right.
Very nice. Yep.
All right. Biggs, who's your stock up, buddy?
All right, let me cook. Since this is a Dynasty show, I'm going to be talking about a player who's not even in the NFL yet, and you guys know who I'm talking about.
Oh, God.
He has led his team in rushing yards every week this season. 123 yards rushing in week 2, 120 in week 4, 124 in week 6, 182, 143, 112, 148, and 104 in a playoff game. On top of that, this kid is a running back who has led the team in receiving yards 3 times this year, on top of being one of the top running backs in the country. He has 1,425 yards on the ground, 17 touchdowns. He has 842 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. I'm talking about Lan Larison, running back for the UC Davis Aggies, who are in the FCS playoffs this Saturday against South Dakota. Now, we talk about FCS running backs. We've got Isaiah Davis, I believe, from South Dakota State. We've got Dylan Laube, who was a darling in the draft season. We've got Austin Eckler, who is really the only one of his profile who has ever done the things that he's done. There are countless FCS success stories in the NFL, and Lan Larison is the best of all of them. So his stock is absolutely up. Write his name down. Watch for him come draft season. I'm going to be reporting from the Shrine Bowl. I hope he's there. I'm also going to be reporting from the Senior Bowl. If he's not at one, he's going to be at the other. I'm going to be reporting from the Combine. I'm going to have Lan Larison on as a guest. And so all of you guys can make note of this dude, because he's going to be an FCS success story in the NFL, and his stock is way up.
Oh, I'm about to scoop him in the 5th round of every rookie draft because of you.
I'm taking him in the 4th.
Well,
There
I
you
don't
go.
play any dynasty leagues with you. Lucky me.
I don't play any leagues that I have 5 rounds of rookie picks, so
I'm in 2. This has been a nugget that I've been plotting on. I sent out a tweet a little while ago, and I said they told me I could be anything that I wanted, and so I became. And the thing was like Vin Diesel had that poster where he was like, so I became Vin Diesel, and I scratched out Vin Diesel and put Lan Larison.
Loved it. Yeah, anybody who follows me knows about Lan Larison now.
there you go. All right.
Who's your
Chev,
stock
you wanna
up,
go?
Chev?
Chev,
My stock up, myself personally.
Yeah.
It's a guy that we talked about a little bit in passing, Romo Dunze. Yeah. So I didn't realize that he was second on the team in receiving yards to DJ Moore, and that Keenan Allen had only missed 1 game in that whole deal. I had said that the targets had been there, and that eventually it was gonna pop off. Like, I still believe that he's a part of the big 3 with Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors in this draft class receiver wise. That's my personal belief.
Big 5.
Sure.
You Ladd and Brock. I mean, they got to be in the conversation.
I'm talking about my pre-draft evaluations.
We're just throwing Brian Thomas under the bus?
Yeah,
Oh, fuck you.
that's the
Brian
most empty
Thomas-
top 10
no,
wide
listen,
receiver I've ever
listen.
seen.
Brian Thomas was 4th. Like,
I'm
going
kidding.
back to the pre-draft process, Brian Thomas was 4th. If you were drafting again today, there's 0 chance that he would still be 4th. None whatsoever.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously people weren't as sold as they needed to be on Brian Thomas leading FBS in receiving touchdowns, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you're hyper sold on his teammate, but whatever. So stock up, Romo Dunze. I love the volume that he's seeing. Him and Caleb, in Dynasty, it was never a play for 2024. It just wasn't. Like, it's Devontae Adams in his rookie year in Green Bay playing behind Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson. You could see the talent, and when given the opportunity, it was going to look really, really good. Now it's coming on because he's had 10 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets, 6 targets. He scores 2 touchdowns this past week, and now he's going back. He's going back to the Vikings game, where I can't recall off the top of my head how he performed. But the week before that, against the Packers, he had. I mean, they're going to him on a guy to have a situation. So clearly,
Couldn't have said it better.
There's some sort of connection building with him and Caleb. Okay, yeah. My stock up unequivocally is Roma Dunze. I love it. I was a big Rome guy. I feel validated. I feel heard by the Bears coaching staff now that they're giving him consistent targets and that passing game isn't completely broken under the fraud that we call Shane Waldron.
As a watcher of the Pac-12, rest in peace, I watched a lot of Washington football, and I watched a lot of Romo Dunze and Jalen McMillan, and absolutely loved them. I loved the value of Jalen McMillan, and I loved the upside of Romo Dunze. It just when you have a rookie quarterback like that, it's going to take a little while. It takes some rookie wide receivers a little bit to start cooking. And so just like you said, like we knew it was coming at some point. Same with Marvin. Like we know it's coming at some point. It's just a matter of when that opportunity is going to hit. And Rome Odunze is the guy to own in that wide receiver room right now.
Yeah, just too bad they didn't have Michael Penix throwing them the ball this year. Because, like, I mean, can you imagine how prolific they would have been?
Not under Shane Waldron. There's nobody was going to make that offense prolific under Shane Waldron. Prime Aaron Rodgers would be like
that was me just probing you guys to say that maybe some of this situation might be more Michael Penix than these three wide receivers that potentially floated Michael Penix's stock value up there.
Sure.
No, I think Michael Penix is awesome. Like he's like super arm, left arm Tua.
Yeah.
Like the 99 throw power version of Tua.
I wanted the Raiders to draft him. I'm glad we got Brock, but I wanted the Raiders to draft him.
But two things can be true. Michael Penix can be awesome, and these all three receivers. I wasn't a Jalen Polk guy by any stretch of the imagination. But
me either, Mike.
We know that already.
But I believe that Michael Penix, Jalen McMillan, and Rome Odunze will all have very successful, very meaningful careers for fantasy and team success. But I can't say the same thing about Jalen Polk.
All right, so let's do our stock ups and then do our stock downs, and then we'll end the show here.
Who's your stock up, Mike? You didn't share yours.
I know, because he's more of a downer to me. I mean, wait, get the pun? I'm talking about Josh Downs. Yeah, man. I mean, just to piggyback off of Schultzy's situation, I think, they go hand in hand. Josh Downs has, just been the highlight of the Colts offense this year, in my opinion. The Colts are fighting for a playoff spot, even though they're kind of outside looking in. Downs is going to see a lot more targets and opportunities. He's been a solid wide receiver 3 with, wide receiver 2 and 1 upside. 53 catches, almost 600 yards, 4 touchdowns, a little banged up, but he's been great. His 25% target share, doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. He's been efficient under Joe Flacco. He's been efficient under Anthony Richardson. And I just see his metrics, his separation skills, and just the safety valve from whoever's throwing them the ball. I just think that Josh Downs is on the upswing. And, I had a lot of invested in him this offseason. He paid dividends in a lot of my leagues, and I'm hoping that he could do the same thing down the stretch here for me. So, yeah, I'm invested in Josh Downs. I'm buying high on him where I can, because I just see that combination between him and A-Rich is going to be there. And, give me some Josh Downs.
I agree. Mike and I have been in lockstep on Josh Downs since a good portion of last season. Schultzy, who's your stock down?
Well, I'll keep it short because we pretty much had the conversation on Kirk, but it's Kirk Cousins, man. Mainly for me, it's because this last 4 weeks has just been absolutely abysmal for him. You're looking at his highest scoring game is 11.76 in the past 4 games. Hasn't thrown a touchdown. He's thrown 8 interceptions, including 6 the past 2 weeks. Eye test wise, he's just been absolutely awful. He's not going to run. We already know that. And the discussions being had about him being benched, even though he got handed this massive contract, that you guys mentioned, like, nobody wants to pay shit for it. Like, nobody wants to pay anything for this guy right now. No. So yeah, his stock is hitting the floor. And I just don't even know if you're going to be able to get out.
How about what else just hit the floor is that ball that Deebo Samuel just dropped like fucking wide open in his hands. Like you complain about not getting the ball.
I told you so.
Yeah, like just yeah. We agree.
I told everybody on the tailgate, don't play Deebo.
Hey, CD
Lamb Larison would not have dropped that.
That's true.
Or land.
He's making one-handed catches, leaping over guys in playoff games. Jeremiah, who's your stock down?
Hey, so this one's a little more long form, but you'll understand here. Chris Olave, it's been a lost year for him. Olave, a second-round pick in redraft and best ball all summer. Olave is 24.5. Tepid interest out there in the dynasty market, though. This creates liquidity for buyers, but good luck trying to get yesterday's price for Chris Olave if you have him. Over on Dynasty Daddy, there's a tracker that shows trade value, trade demand, going back to late October. In the last 40 days on KTC, Chris Olave's value has dropped over 700 points. For volume in amounts of trades tracked by Fantasy Process, mid-October, there were 545 Chris Olave trades. A month ago, there were 1,023 Olave trades. So there was the height of liquidity about a month ago. It has dropped to, in the last week, 385 trades. So there's just been a massive dip. In 3 seasons, Olave's fantasy points per game have been, ready? 13.2, 14.5, 9.6. Nothing special. You know, we talk about, if you ever watch Dynasty Trades in 5, they talk about having hammers, right? DD Fantasy Football, they talk about having hammers. That is not a hammer wide receiver as far as points per game. If you're buying, you're hoping for a quarterback upgrade. You're looking at Olave's first 2 seasons with over 1,000 yards receiving. You like the first-round pedigree from Ohio State. And if you're buying him, you're less concerned about Olave's concussion history. Olave has 4 concussions in 3 years in the NFL. So we do like groceries. So let's go to the market, right? Keep Trade Cut has Olave in a late 25 first, dead even. Which side would you want, Mike? Olave or a late 25 first?
I like this running back class quite a bit, depending on where my roster is at. Like, if I'm strong at wide receiver, I'm taking the draft pick because I like the amount of running backs in this class, and I think I could get like a smash one in this for sure.
All right,
so I'll probably take the pick. I'll take the pick if I'm running back needy.
Okay, and you might like the liquidity versus Olave pigeonholing you in. How about topical? Jaden Reed really burned us last week. Chev, would you go Chris Olave or Jaden Reed?
I would go Chris Olave there.
Very nice.
It's still Olave. I mean, he's a lock for 140 targets, and you know the Jaden Reed experience is going to be one that's very mercurial. So, yeah, you might get a 30-point spike week that you're probably, you're praying for with Olave. I mean, he's kind of a 25-point ceiling type of guy, and he's not really efficient at scoring touchdowns. So, you know, it's a more difficult. I don't think it'd be very difficult for me to, in a full PPR, take Chris Olave over Jaden Reed.
Very nice, very nice. So let's go over to player profiler rankings. Here are some players who are near Chris Olave. I'll pivot to Schultzy and Biggs, and then we'll go to our next stock down. Olave or Xavier Worthy? Biggs, who would you prefer?
Olave.
All right.
We have to consider that the New Orleans Saints are going to be drafting a quarterback at some point, and they're not going to stick with Derek Carr. Spencer Rattler is not going to be a successful NFL quarterback. Jake Haener already has that job over him, and he's not going to do much either. Olave is going to be connected to a good quarterback at some point in the next couple of years, and I want to be there to own him.
So does it sound like, Biggs, you're going to be buying Olave low?
Oh, buy.
Okay. Good. Okay. So stock down, but there's a scooping opportunity. Mike is on the other side, liquidity for somebody who's selling. Now, Schultzy, I'll go to you. Chris Olave or Cooper Kupp. So you got a younger guy and an older guy, but you've had these concussions with Olave. And, of course, Cooper Kupp's been playing well lately. Who do you got in Dynasty?
Oh, dude, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to take a stab and go Olave simply for what Biggs is saying. Yeah, he's been tied to average quarterback play at best his whole career, and he's put up some numbers doing it. With Kupp, this is total tough one in a vacuum. I think your team situation tells you everything you need to know for that specific one. Like if you're pushing here, like your window's right now, I think I'm gonna pull it with Cup. Write it out for a year or two. Anything other than a right now window, I think I'm going Olave.
Very nice. I like it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. All right. I like how every week I talk about when we do stock up, stock down, that stock up means go grab a whole bunch of them, and stock down means go grab a whole bunch of them. Unless sometimes, like Schultzy, you bring up somebody whose stock is so low that you don't want any part of it with Kirk Cousins, and then Olave, whose stock is down enough that you can go buy him a lot. I wouldn't pay a high first rounder for Olave. I'd pay a high second rounder for Olave. Some of these wide receivers coming out next year, like Tet, are going to light the world on fire, regardless of quarterback. But my stock down for this week is Zamir White. Now, Zamir White was, for some of us, a very highly targeted value play going into the 2024. He had a very good audition when Josh Jacobs got hurt at the end of 2023, played very well for the last 4 games of the season, was absolutely the alpha in that running back room. And then a funny thing happened on the way to superstardom for Zamir White. Luke Getsy came into town, and then Zamir started dealing with a bunch of injuries. So he had Alexander Madison that was kind of pushing him around. Couldn't really break out at any point. The Raiders' offensive line was absolute garbage for the first half of the season. They're starting to play a little bit better now. And unfortunately for Zamir, Sincere McCormick is the one who's been the beneficiary of that improved offensive line play. There's a lot of murkiness into what the Raiders are going to do at the running back position in 2024. But Zamir White's value is so low right now, considering the fact that Sincere McCormick is starting to break out and White is on the injured reserve list. It's likely you can get him off waivers, even in your dynasty leagues. There's not a whole lot of hope for him next year. So grab him as cheaply as you can, stash him, and then when April rolls around, depending on what the Raiders decide to do at running back in the draft, it's a deep running back class. They're very, very likely to draft a running back because they don't necessarily have a guy who looks like he's going to be the number one. If they don't, though, look for Zamir White to actually have a good 2024 if he can stay, or 2025 if he can stay healthy. And as long as you got him for cheap, it's going to be a stock that at some point could pay off for you. It would be interesting if I was on the ball, and I always have Dynasty Daddy queued up, and I use it for a variety of different shows. So I'm going to look at what his value is. A 2027 fourth rounder, a 2025 fourth rounder, Damian Pierce and Zamir White for Nick Westbrook-Akine, Gus Edwards for Zamir White and a third rounder, Alexander Madison and Zamir White for a 2025 fourth rounder, 2027 third. So that 2027 third is like the highest value. Don't pay that. But if you can pay a fourth, go grab Zamir White.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're telling me right now is just dirt cheap for him. And then just like any sort of situation, you want to have these guys, you know, even if they're not the starting guy, they're a plug and play situation. And he's shown he has that potential if he's got that, you know, that starting role. So yeah, I like that call big, especially when you're talking about a 2027 fourth round pick. Geez. I mean, that is like they're not even playing in the NFL for 3 years. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what the hell? That's a no-brainer. And you can recuperate that, no problem. All right, who's next?
Me.
All right, Chev, hit it up.
It's Tajay Spears. I'm going to stay close to home with this one. So, at various points before free agency was finalized, I saw Tajay Spears going for late first. The excitement, the everything around him was just palpable. I mean, wheels up for Tajay Spears. And if you watched him play football, if you watched him play American tackle football, you can see why. I mean, he's electrifying. He is great. But the thing is they have a back they brought a back in Tony Pollard that does everything that he can do and handle a solidified workload. And Tajay hasn't been healthy enough this year to carve into what has become Tony Pollard's backfield. And with that 3-year deal, I'm not sure that we'll ever, without injury to Tony Pollard, we'll ever get a full-on workhorse Chase Brown type season from Tajay Spears that I believe he's fully capable of if you gave him that type of work. However, I just don't think that he's good enough to push Tony Pollard aside. I did think that going into the season, but Tony Pollard has quieted those concerns in a major way. He's been, I mean, since Tajay's been back, Tony Pollard handled 73% of their snaps against the Commanders, and then I believe he was above 70% this past week. He had a touchdown called back, or he would have had another top 15 finish. So there's just no path for me to be able to get Tajay Spears to being a really usable fantasy asset without an injury to Tony Pollard, who appears to have complete control of this backfield.
I invested in him late season last year very heavily, and then Tony Pollard happened.
Yeah, I was in best ball. I had that trio of, because they were going right behind each other. Coach, you and I talked quite a bit about this in a Discord that we're in together. It was Tony Pollard, it was Tajay, and it was Chase Brown, all in that same type of range, like RB 29 to 31. And I picked Tajay, and I regret that decision a great deal. And I'm a big Chase Brown guy too.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because in that clump, I had a lot of Tajay Spears. Fortunately, I didn't drink too much, and I ended up with a fair amount of Chase Brown. And if I look at my advancing teams, and you'll probably see commonality too with your advancing teams, Tajay Spears is nowhere to be found. Chase Brown is there in the advancing teams.
Yeah, I traded some of my Tajay away at the end of last year, but I was really high on him, and it just the knee injury, the situation there, it's and the Tony Pollard efficiency, which I didn't expect him coming out of Dallas the way he was running the ball last year. Surprise there, but I agree with that one there, Chev. It's a hard pill to swallow, but yeah, Tajay Spears is definitely not somebody I'm looking to get right now. I mean, potentially down the line, you never know. Could be on the cheap. These running backs, I mean, they're rosterable, but they're definitely not somebody that are going for a first round pick anymore. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, Mike, you would not give up a 5th round rookie pick for him, right? Because you don't play in leagues that have a 5th round rookie pick.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've never.
Yeah. I'm actually in a best ball league with Jeremiah, and
torched.
He doesn't have Tajay Spears at all.
There you have it. All right, who's next? I'll go. I'll talk about my stock down here, guys, and let me figure out who that is. Oh, it's Trey Benson. And you know what? After James Conner signed that contract, and seeing his efficiency metrics spike up the last couple of weeks, James Conner is coming in, and he's becoming that staple asset that he's been for the Cardinals. But I wasn't expecting him to gain snap share in the last couple of weeks, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah, especially moving forward here after that contract. Trey Benson has shown me a lot in his rookie season, especially in the last couple of weeks. But with that contract, I'm worried about his stock now moving forward. I think that James Conner has shown enough, especially in the last couple of weeks here, that he's his value is going to be there for the end of the year, and then going into the next year, it's going to be a split backfield probably, and Trey Benson is going to get the run. But for me, in the leagues that I have Trey Benson stocks in, I was putting in the 201. A lot of the times it was either 201, 202, or even the 112 pick here. And I was expecting him to be the workhorse back next season. And that's not happening at this stage of the game with that contract and with the way that James Conner's running. So I'm down on Trey Benson, and I'm looking to move on from him right now in Dynasty.
I would not move on from him for the sole fact that James Conner has been the healthiest that he's ever been in a season ever this year. And I know you can't predict injury, but the problem is you're predicting James Conner to go against what he's shown you in every other year of his career. So if I had Trey Benson, I would be holding with diamond hands unless I could get like way more than what he's worth on the open market. And if I had James Conner, I would be aggressively trying to get Trey Benson in the event that he's going to come back to what his normal 13 to 14 games a year next year. And that was another thing that I did in best ball was I invested pretty heavily in Trey Benson because he was fair. I mean, he was a little bit more expensive, but you're looking at an opportunity where if James Conner misses, this is a 220-pound back that runs 4.30 in a good offense. Like he could win you a week, and that was what I was kind of banking on. So for me, I don't know that I would be trying to move off of him, but I would definitely be trying to acquire on the cheap because the moment that he gets the lion's share of the work, the buy window is going to be, it's going to be on the 5th floor instead of the 1st floor where it is right now.
Well, for me right now, in every league that I have Trey Benson, I have James Conner. And I'm more right now willing to move Trey Benson to put a piece into my lineup that's going to get me into the championship.
I agree.
And I'm not afraid to move off of him now. Like now that I have James Conner, like I'm not afraid to move off of my Trey Benson shares where I was 3 weeks ago. Like having James Conner and that contract, like not being signed, I'm holding on to Trey Benson with dear life. Now I'm like, okay, I could use him as an asset now that like may not be fruitful for another year or two or based off of injury. So his stock goes right down for me because I put a lot of investment in him this offseason thinking that next year he's the guy, and it's not happening unless an injury happens or a 50-50 timeshare is probably, more realistic next year. And I was more expecting like a 70-30 if they got James Conner on the cheap, and that wasn't a cheap contract. So for a running back. So
I see the vision. I see what you're saying. I just think that I'm terrified as someone who has a lot of James Conner in Dynasty. I'm terrified that he goes back to play like 13 games and we get.
I've been terrified of James Conner every year since he was like, and every year I've had him, I was like, yes, I've got James Conner now, and he's missed a game here and there, but you know what? At the end of the day, when he's playing, he's getting the lion's share of the workload for the most part,
without question.
And that's a guy I just want in my lineup every week. And
I feel like, Mike, you're one share of James Conner short. And he can be had for 2 college players in your
there you go,
Canton league. So
hey, I'm not opposed to gaining him after my bye this week.
We'll talk.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the last. I think we just have Jeremiah's stock. No, Biggs' stock.
No, that was it.
That was it. Yes.
Yeah.
Hour
Studs
10.
and duds.
Let's go. I think. Are we going more?
We still have 2 segments.
Yeah, no. You guys can roll with
You
2
made
more
the show sheet.
Yeah, but now we got 5. Maybe I'll shorten it next week. Do you want to quickly get into our starts and sits then?
Sure.
All right. Let's go. Let's all rattle off our starts and sits real quick. Jeremiah, starting with you, buddy.
Oh, yeah. My start this week, Brian Robinson Jr. versus Saints. Austin Eckler is out with that concussion. He's going to be on IR. 7.5-point favorites are the Commanders. The over-under is 43. Washington's rush offense is ranked 3rd. versus the Saints rush defense ranked 25th. So this is just an easy smash spot for Brian Robinson Jr. And pivoting over to my sit, Jonathan Taylor. The game has a total of 44.5, and the Broncos are favored by 3.5. The Broncos are 6th in rushing defense. And on the other side of the ball, the Colts defense is 31st in rushing defense. So I can see the Broncos actually running the ball well on the Colts and forcing the need for more efficiency from Jonathan Taylor, who is having fewer opportunities based on what Schultzy was talking about with Anthony Richardson. And I know Chev was echoing the Anthony Richardson hype. Jonathan Taylor's upside is capped. Outside of week 3, there was an RB5 performance for Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor has not had a week higher than RB12. So my start is Brian Robinson Jr., and my sit is Jonathan Taylor.
So let's say if anybody has like a huge qualm about somebody's start or sits, pipe in, and then we'll get a discussion going.
It's like Festivus. Speak now.
Speak now, forever. Okay, Schultze, who do you got as your start and sit?
I'm starting Adam.
Done.
Okay. Just start Adam. All right, I'm starting Adam. I'm sitting Tyrone. You do the rest.
No, go ahead. Talk about you guys.
Adam Thielen versus the Cowboys. A little bit with the Bryce Young resurgence we're seeing is it's all going to our guy Adam Thielen lately. Back-to-back games here 2 weeks ago versus the Bucks. He caught 8 balls on 10 targets for 99 and a touchdown. Last week against the Eagles, 9 balls on 11 targets for 102. And almost identical stat lines here. Massive volume. I'm looking for consistency. There's just not much else to work with here. Cowboys are allowing 21.1 to wide receivers. So, start Adam Thielen.
Love it.
And on the opposite side, unfortunately, I'm sitting Tyrone Tracy. I love him, but I don't love him this week. Ravens are they just smother people on the ground. And this just has the looks of one of those games that gets ugly. And the Giants, they could just go score 6 points. I mean, we saw it on Thanksgiving. They ended up scoring some garbage points there, but that Thanksgiving game got pretty brutal pretty quick, and the running backs were just totally phased out of that one. I don't like Tyrone Tracy this week.
The only saving grace for him, I think, is that the 10 targets last week, which was a first for him, and they may rely on him a little bit here for that, especially if they're out of hand. But I don't like the matchup. Big sorry to interrupt you. What were you going to say, bud?
You didn't interrupt me. I was trying to interrupt you. The only quibble I have with Thielen is that he did that the last couple of weeks without Jalen Coker, and Coker is back this week. But other than that,
Coker's the best receiver on that roster, not named Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Agreed with everybody's sentiment in that situation. I think Thielen takes a bit of a hit, but I also think he's a good play this week, regardless of the situation.
I would play Jalen Coker this week.
You have the bollocks to play Jalen Coker this week.
100. He's the best receiver on the roster, not named Adam Thielen by far. It's not even close.
So much
better than XL. It's not even funny. I love XL.
But Leggett is so fun to listen to. All right. My start of the week is Rico Dowdle. The Carolina Panthers running defense is absolute ass. They're the only team worse than the Jaguars. And Rico Dowdle has been smashing the last month. And I like him to continue that, especially with a lead against Carolina. Carolina is going to keep trying to get into the game, but the Cowboys are probably going to take a lead fairly early and just use Rico Dowdle to control the game. And then for my sit, I picked this one just because I want to hurt somebody in their heart. I'm sitting Tony Pollard.
That doesn't hurt me. You can't hurt me. I'm already dead.
The matchup looks great on paper. They're playing the Bengals. The Bengals are a points sieve. But I don't think that those points for the Titans this week are going to be coming from the running game. I think they're going to be coming from.
They're just not coming.
If they're coming in the passing game. I think Ridley is going to have himself a nice game. Will Levis has started improving, and they're going to be behind and trying to catch up. So I think it's going to be a lot of Will Levis throwing the ball and running with it, and not a whole lot of handing off to Tony Pollard. So I feel like if you have a play that you can make where you sit Tony Pollard in favor of somebody like a Rico Dowdle, you go ahead and do that.
All right, who's your sit then?
Tony Pollard.
I'm just joking.
Hey, would you start Rachaad White over him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rachaad White is in must-start territory this week.
All right.
And Deebo Samuel sucks.
Dog, tell me.
Dog, tell me. All right.
I can't wait until later on today when Chev and I discuss last night's game that's happening right now.
Just such dog shit. Oh God.
He's not getting the targets.
He's getting the targets tonight. He's not fucking catching them.
Yeah.
That's the whole problem the whole year, right?
You should have watched the tailgate, and then you would have heard me say sit Debo.
He should have. My start of the week is Jalen Waddle. All right.
That's a good one.
My start of the week is Jalen Waddle. He's been a wide receiver 6 the last 3 weeks. The Texans give up the 5th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position over the last 5 weeks. They're giving up 26.4 points a game. They've given up at least 55 yards in a score in in the last 3. And I am a patent Jalen Waddle denier. And since I have denied him, he has become the wide receiver 6. I hate it here. And I'm kind of hoping that this is wrong so I can go back to hating him again. But in the fantasy playoffs, I don't really see very many, outside of the guys who you were auto starting. And I feel like Jalen Waddle had firmly fallen out of that category, being the wide receiver 60 through 11 weeks. Jalen Waddle would be my start of the week. My sit of the week is going to be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I don't love that. It does not feel good. I honestly, there are I don't know that there's a quarterback that I own in Dynasty more than Jalen Hurts, but based on the way that their passing attack is working, and Saquon runs the ball all the way down to the 1 yard line and he gets the tush push, or AJ Brown scores from 70 yards out. It's just not a reliable enough, especially against the Steelers defense. I mean, Steelers defense has been nails against quarterbacks this year. So in the first round of the fantasy playoffs, I don't think that you can sit Jalen Hurts, but if there was someone a quarterback I would bet on to underperform this week, it would be Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So yeah. I like your call. It's bold. It takes, you got to have a sack to say something like that.
It's just legendary ball knowledge, brother. It's all good.
Yeah, it's absolutely good. But for me, I'm so much in on AJ Brown this week. I got first quarter, second quarter, anytime first half, anytime touchdown.
I feel bad for
80.5 receptions, 5.5 receptions over. I'm in on AJ Brown, so I'm gonna have to push back on.
He is such
Jalen
a fade
Hurts.
for me this week.
Yeah, but yeah,
I like that 88.5 receptions. That's a lot for one game.
80.5 for receiving
yards. Okay,
I'm over, man. I'm in on AJ Brown. AJ Brown versus 5th graders. Hey, it's gonna happen this week for AJ
They don't
Brown.
even get along anymore. Like him and Hurts, they have some drama like Tyrell. It's happening. McNabb and Tyrell, it's happening there. And
Terrell Owens. I was like, who the hell is Tyrell?
Yeah.
Sorry,
got it. Yeah.
I pronounce things a lot.
It took me a second, and I was like, okay.
Jameson.
It's the Canadian
Tyrell.
accent.
Yeah. Sorry. It's snowing here pretty hard, actually. But yeah, no, I'm off of Hurts this week for sure as well. They're Chev, so I'm on that. I'm off of AJ Brown too. I have him pretty low. So, Jeremiah, I wish you luck.
Who's your start, Mike?
My start. Okay, let me pull up the sheet here, and that's Khalil Shakir. I just love the situation. I know that Keon Coleman's coming back, Dalton Kincaid's coming back, but this game against the Lions is just set up to be, a sequel from last week for Josh Allen and company. 7 consecutive games with 7+ targets for Shakir, and I think that's going to continue. He's had at least 50 yards in 6 of the last 7 games, 106 yards and a touchdown in week 14 in that shootout. And then the Lions struggle against wide receivers. So I just think that this situation for Khalil Shakir is going to be good. The Lions against slot receivers is one of their weaknesses. Detroit has allowed over 1,000 yards to slot receivers this season, the most in the league. And Khalil Shakir runs 62% of his routes from the slot. So I think this is a prime situation for him and Josh Allen. Even with all the fluff around him, Khalil Shakir is the main target there in Buffalo, and I think he's going to come in strong this week. I have him as a top 15 wide receiver, even with everybody coming back. I love this situation here for him, and I love Khalil Shakir.
Is that Josh Allen's secret? He's got a fluffer around him
at all times.
Always.
Always.
Don't you have a fluffer around you, Biggs? Wouldn't
No.
you? No. Do you want one? I can send one up.
I'm pretty good on my own.
I don't.
All right. So my stock down is DeAndre Swift. He's playing the Vikings this week, and we have no idea what is happening with the Bears, especially after last week, the first quarter, the second quarter of that game. After they fired Eberflus, things, thought would be better for the team, but it definitely wasn't. They were completely out of that game early, and I'm expecting that to happen again this week. And I just don't think they're going to keep up with the Vikings, who are high flying, and they're going to need to pass the ball quite a bit. So yeah, I'm really low on DeAndre Swift against a Vikings defense that's really tough against the run.
Always sit your running backs against Minnesota.
Even after the last couple of weeks, they haven't been that great against the run, but still this week is a tough one for them, I think.
Quick nugget I came across on the Bills-Lions game from Jacob Gibbs. So the Bills play a top 5 rated too high. Jamison Williams versus too high, 2.74 yards per route run and a 25% target share. So I think that he could be a really sneaky play this week.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's going to be a sneaky play in that game. I mean, this game could hit upward.
Is it sneaky then?
Yes. Super sneaky.
Very sneaky stuff.
I like your Shakir call. I do have to go on a show with our boy Dixicles and his partner, Dynasty Deviant, I want to say.
Oh yeah.
How did the second name get so much worse than the first name?
Richard Sickles, Dixicles. Friend of the program, former guest. He was a guest before. So they had a preseason show, and the two of them were arguing Khalil Shakir or Curtis Samuel, and I was huge on Curtis Samuel signing a nice free agent contract at Buffalo, and him having an 8th year breakout. And so Richard decided that he was going to make a pie in the face bet that Curtis Samuel was going to have a better year than Khalil Shakir. And I was thinking, Khalil Shakir is just a slot receiver. And they brought Keon Coleman in to run the X. And then a funny thing happened on the way to losing that bet. So I have to do a pie in the face video for my Curtis Samuel take.
There you have it. All right, folks. Hour 25 minutes, 5 of us crushing content, and it's only going to get better as this offseason ramps up because the Dynasty Pulse keeps going all year round. We were pulsing all year, and we're almost at our 1-year anniversary, Bigs, of the Dynasty Pulse, where we're getting pretty close to that. We'll have to have a big celebration show now that we have, a FISOM here, and appreciate everybody from tuning in from the Fantasy Football Plus Network, from the Undroppables Network, which a lot of us represent, and Biggs do it so well.
We hope you win.
We hope you win.